Didn't go in there to heal her. I went in to change the water pitcher. That's the part nobody believes. They want a better reason. They want me to say I felt called, or that I saw something in her face through the door, or that old Marin's spirit guided my hand. I'm telling you, it was the pitcher. The duty roster said the Queen's chamber water was to be changed at the fourth bell, and it was the fourth bell, and I was the one holding the rotation card, and so I went. My name is Pelorvidish. I was at the time the second lowest rank in the household service of the Valesi Reach, junior page, corridor rotation, tray carrier, water pitcher attendant. Person below me was a girl who had started the previous week. If she'd had her footing, I might have handed her the card. She didn't, so I kept it. Queen Cheval had not spoken in 31 days. It had started the morning after her eldest son was buried. Not a word, not a gesture, not a response to name or title or touch. The court physicians had been in and out of that room so many times the stone threshold had worn a pale crescent from their boots. 3 master healers from the Soreth conclave had made the journey from the outer settlements and camped in the east wing for a week, burning their oils and singing their harmonics, and leaving in the end with their cases packed and their eyes on the floor. 2 scholars of the old mind-binding arts had tried. A delegation of Velasi spirit speakers had tried. A woman reputed to have broken a grief trance in the Eravith court 15 years prior had been brought across 4 systems and escorted to the door of that room, and had come out 40 minutes later without saying anything to anyone. 31 days, nothing. My predecessor in corridor rotation was an older man named Marin Thys. He had served in the household for 34 years, and he knew where every seam in the palace marble ran, which lamp brackets were loose. Corridor caught the wind from the south garden, and could sweep a tray off your arm if you weren't ready. He died in the 11th month of the previous year, peacefully, in the servant quarters, in his sleep. I had worked under him for 2 years. He taught me the whole of the corridor rotation, the rhythm of the rooms, the small kindnesses of the work, and the names. Not the titles, the names. He had a way of talking about the royal household that wasn't servile and wasn't overly familiar. He just knew them. Knew what they preferred, what they'd eaten as children, what they'd been called before ceremony, put a formal shell around them. He talked about the Queen, now and then, the way an old man talks about someone he'd watched grow up at a distance, with a quiet affection and a kind of protective care. He used her name sometimes, not her title, not her majesty. Her name, the short one she'd had as a child, before the coronation. The one her mother had used. He told it to me one evening when we were oiling the lamp brackets in the east corridor. I didn't think much of it. I filed it with everything else he taught me. I wasn't planning to use it. The door to the Queen's chamber was unguarded that afternoon. The guards had been moved to the outer corridor on the physician's recommendation, the idea being that fewer presences might help. The door was ajar. I knocked on the frame, said, "Water service, Your Majesty." Waited 3 beats the way Marin had taught me, and went in. The room was dim. Not dark. The curtains on the garden side windows were half open, and the afternoon light came in pale and sideways, the kind of light that makes a room feel quiet rather than sad. She was sitting in the chair by the window. Not in bed. That surprised me. The physician's notes I'd overheard in the corridor had made it sound like she wasn't moving. She was moving. She was sitting very still, which is different, but she was upright, and her hands were in her lap, and her eyes were open, looking at the garden. She didn't turn when I came in. I did what I was there to do. I crossed to the side table, lifted the old pitcher, set it on my tray, set the fresh one down. Wiped the condensation ring off the table with the cloth I kept on my belt. Marin's habit, not required, just the right thing. And I set the cup straight. It had been tipped slightly. I set it straight. I was going to go. I had the tray. I had the old pitcher. I was 3 steps toward the door. What happened next was not a decision. That's the truest thing I can tell you. It wasn't courage, and it wasn't strategy, and it wasn't some instinct from another world. It was that I'd been in that room for 2 minutes with another person in it, and the silence had a particular weight, and something in that weight reminded me of Marin, of the way he used to sit with things, not rushing them, and his voice came into my head the way it sometimes did when I was doing the corridor rounds. Just the shape of him talking, and the name came with it, I said. The garden's looking well, Sova. Just that, said it the way Marin might have said it. Quietly to the room, not demanding a response. Not even sure I meant to say it out loud. The silence changed. I don't know how to explain that precisely. The room didn't sound different, but the texture of the quiet shifted. Like a held breath, released very slightly. She turned her head. Not all the way. Just enough that I could see the line of her cheek, the edge of her eye. She was looking at the space where I'd been standing, not at the door where I was now. She was looking at where the voice had come from. I should have said something useful. I should have said, "Forgive me, Your Majesty," and left. Instead I said, the next thing that came, also from Marin, also not planned. He used to say the blue flowers came in early when the drainage was right. The drainage looks right this year. This time she turned all the way. She looked at me. I'm a junior page. I'm not someone a queen looks at. As a rule, I carry water pitchers. I oil lamp brackets. I am, in the fullest sense of the word, part of the furniture of this place. She looked at me the way you look at something you thought you recognized in the wrong room, she said. You knew, Marin. Her voice was rough from the weeks of silence, barely more than a whisper, but it was words. It was a sentence. It was the first sentence anyone had heard from her in 31 days. And I had not done anything. I had changed a water pitcher and said a dead man's words in a dead man's voice. And here they were. Yes, Your Majesty, I said. 2 years. He trained me for this corridor. She was quiet for a moment. The garden light moved a little, a cloud passing, and the room got warmer. She looked down at her hands. He used to come in the early morning, she said. Before anyone else was up, he'd tell me what was growing. He never asked me anything. That sounds like him, I said. Another silence. This one felt different again, lighter, somehow, like the room had adjusted to the presence of words and found it could hold them. What's your name, she said. Not really a question. Is it? Pel Orvish, Your Majesty. She looked at the garden. Come back tomorrow, Pel Orvish, early. Tell me what's growing. Said I would. I took my pitcher and my tray and I walked out. In the corridor, Lord Aerith, the head court physician, was waiting with 2 of the conclave healers and the Queen's senior chamberlain. They had heard, somehow, been watching through the small observation panel in the east wall. I didn't know the panel existed. Marin probably would have known. Lord Aerith looked at me the way people look at things they can't categorize. What did you say to her, he said. I told her. The garden drainage looked right this year, I said. The silence I got from 3 senior healers is something I will remember for the rest of my life. Not because it felt like a victory. It didn't, particularly. I hadn't set out to win anything. I'd set out to change a pitcher. There was some talk later about a formal recognition. A promotion, or a payment, or a seat at some kind of ceremonial acknowledgement. I didn't want any of it. I am a page. I know where the lamp brackets are. I know the corridor rotation, and the rhythm of the rooms and the small kindnesses that keep a place like this running. I went back the next morning, early, before the court was awake. I told her the blue flowers were coming in. She asked me what Marin had thought of the South Garden's drainage problem 2 summers back. I told her what I remembered. We talked for 20 minutes. I have been going back every morning since. Nobody gave me anything for it. Nobody needed to. Old Marin taught me this corridor. I am still learning what he meant by it.